Peace and blessings manifest with every lesson learned.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mindset Magic. I am Nikita, and today I just kind of wanted to speak to you about challenges that I've been having lately. It feels like the deeper into autonomous working I go, the more I'm starting to understand how much being neurodivergent ADHD has affected me as a person, my confidence, and my belief system. Suddenly, kind of had a realization just now that a lot of the time, why I feel I can't be consistent, so a consistent friend, a consistent girlfriend, a consistent employee, I struggle with the consistency is because of past experiences where I felt like I wasn't able to be consistent. And that came from actually my mood stability. So there'll be days where I feel fine or feel regular. And there'll be days where I just feel like crashing out. Like I'm not capable of retaining information. I'm not capable of focusing, paying attention to what people are saying. I don't feel like I'm being stimulated, which feels unfair to somebody who is telling me a story or we're catching up. And if I feel like it's not that interesting, unfortunately, like I tend to zone out or get distracted or, and obviously people can notice that and they can see that. That can come across quite selfish, and people will tend to think that, you're just not interested in what they have to say, or they could feel offended. And another thing I might do is jump in when someone's speaking. So if I become overly interested, like, oh my God, me too, I do that as well, or something, I tend to jump in, which, I'm trying to work on as well. But ultimately, it was the moods, the crashing moods. So, like I said, some days waking up feeling okay, feeling normal, feeling like I'm ready to go on with the day, I've got energy, um, and that's fine. But then there's days where I'm completely low mood. I can barely get out of bed and things like that. For a long time in my early 20s, I really thought I was depressed. I just thought I had depression, like chronic depression or something like that. But I knew it wasn't really given depressed, so I didn't understand it. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was about 29. So I went for a long time in life feeling like I was failing in some way. The academic system wasn't built for me, wasn't built for us. Um, and so, again, felt like I was failing, felt like I was behind. I didn't know really what was wrong with me. Um, and yeah, I think like coming out of school felt like it would be okay, now I can go on my own path. Maybe it was just school, maybe it was just this, maybe it was just that. But ultimately, you end up carrying those limiting beliefs of like, I'm not good enough, I'm not competent enough, I can't retain information, I'm not academic, I'm not clever, things like that. When you just can't sit there and watch a teacher talking for a whole 50 minutes, is the truth. And the way I would have to learn that is different to the standard neurotypical person. So I just kind of came to the realization that it's still happening for me. Like I still feel like, let's say, uncertain about being like, if I make new friends, for example, I always think like, don't rely on me because I'm not consistent. I'm trying to find consistency within my own life, so I can't be there for you all the time. And it's not to do with you, it's to do with me. Um, so again, became a bit limiting belief. And when I do meet new people, it does feel like, please don't rely on me, or please don't, like they will be disappointed in the end. And that doesn't take a knock for my own self confidence as well. I'm learning more and more alongside my sister, who also has ADHD, and is the face behind the Mindset Magic brand too. My sister is always a part of the brand. Since we became Mindset Magic, she is just never had face on camera, which we'll work on. She doesn't know it yet, but she will be on camera soon too. But we have just been discovering so much. She was the one that actually told me to look up. Um, she found this sheet of the symptoms of ADHD, or the how many can you tick to say that you if you have it or not. I never even thought about it. I know it was mentioned when I was younger, but it wasn't really a thing, and it's become more popular now. Obviously, knowing about just having more knowledge on it because of all the types of social media videos we see. But she gave me that sheet and I ticked off everything. And I didn't even know so many things were linked to the ADHD. For example, anxiety. You know, I get really bad anxiety, sleeping patterns, mood stability, and stuff like that. Technically, someone with ADHD like me, um, we crave dopamine and serotonin hits because our body doesn't provide that consistently. So we are basically dysregulated in the dopamine and serotonin sector. And so, you know, explains a lot of my behaviors, impulsivity. There was a time where I was smoking a lot. Um, and I knew that it wasn't necessarily the feeling of being intoxicated or things like that. It was just like an escape. Um, Working with young people now, um, I also specialize in drugs and alcohol. And I realized that like 90% of the young people I work with were struggling with ADHD and using a substance or alcohol to medicate, to self medicate. And, you know, things just have clicked for me over time. And I really am looking forward to share our journey, like mine and my sister's, because I think it would be helpful for a lot of people. I know what's happening, and I still have days like this where I just feel like I've crashed out, and I don't have the mental capacity, the emotional capacity. I can't retain information. I can't concentrate. I can't focus. Like even saying this on video, it's the first time that I've been vulnerable enough to explain the downsides of ADHD and the self deprecating, self sabotaging, self critical tendencies that just do really stick with you. I suppose I didn't actually realize why I am so withdrawn with people and reserved with people. Another thing I did is I attracted a lot of partners who are emotionally unavailable because technically, if your belief is that you can't give as much, no, not necessarily emotionally, but you can't, because I am a big giver. I would say I'm a giver, but I'm not consistent. And that's because I can't find the means to be consistent with myself because it depends on my mood and how I wake up. And the days where it is like crashing out, I'm very emotionally dysregulated. I just want to be by myself. And then isolating more obviously makes things worse because you, as a human, you crave connection, you need connection. As somebody who is neurodivergent and with ADHD, I, I and many of you who also have the same, um, we need to get out there. We need to go for walks every day. That's how we keep the dopamine and the serotonin at a more consistent level, by just getting out there, you know, being productive. Um, it's like a catch 22 because, you know, the more you feel like this, the less sleep you get. The less sleep you get, you feel more aggy, you feel more irritated. Um, Anxiety can, you know, come in a bit stronger. You start to feel like a failure. You start to feel like, what am I doing wrong? Why can't I get it together? Um, but yeah, there's a whole journey that I feel like I can talk about, and my sister will be have her own experience around her ADHD and her discovery. I know she's very well versed in the scientific side of it, and she reads a lot about it and she knows a lot about it. So I'm excited to bring this to the table. Um, it's been like my dark secret for a long time, I suppose. Just something that I always knew but never expressed because it was just like more shame and just, and it's not. It's just my brain works differently. And it's about time at my age that I take control of it, understand it, and I'm able to help teach others, because it seems like addiction and self medicating have become a huge part of our community now. Seeing it for myself, coaching young people every day, um, who have fallen into the cycle of addiction. It could have been avoided had they have had more information to hand. And it's not just young people, I'm old enough, big enough, and wise enough to know better. But I can see how I can easily fall into that trap. Next plan is to document the things that me and my sister are doing behind the scenes. I've really enjoyed doing videos, manifestation and different types of videos, but ultimately, in recording those videos, which is why when I see a lot of influencers or other people on YouTube and they just say, hit record, and you'll learn about yourself, you'll learn about your niche, you'll learn about this and that. I didn't necessarily learn about the niche in the typical way that I feel is relevant to talk about, or I'm passionate about. But actually, there's been so much self discovery. Every video that I watched, creators that were more established and kind of wanted to understand like what works for them and things like that, all of them said, just hit the record button, hit the record button. And I just thought, yeah, I understand that. But surely you want to work on your videos or your content, make sure everything's planned and prepared down to the fine details. But actually, they were so right, because hitting the record button, you learn a lot about yourself. So if you are thinking about becoming an influencer, or you have your own story to share, or you want to be on social media for whatever reason's important to you, it is important to hit the record button, because I learned so much about myself. We've only got like a set amount of videos up and engagement and stuff like that. But in the process, I've just learned so much about myself. So I would like implore you to do that. Just hit the record button and see what comes out. And maybe your plan stays along its course, maybe it changes. But either way, the self discovery part is something that's important. And I do believe that being authentic to yourself is the best energy to have. If you were to turn the camera back around onto us, that was actually where the real lessons were happening. That was where the real content was and is. In my lack of consistency in building this brand and channel, I learned so much about the fact I'm not that consistent, and no day is like linear. I'm very much like this. And it's a good way for me to now change that, but it's also another way to help other people to understand more about ADHD and its effects, and build a kind of community so we can support each other. To be honest, like starting this Mindset Magic channel, I had something else in mind for it, but the principle was always to build community and to bring people together and hold each other accountable, completely breaking through limiting beliefs and old patterns that weren't serving us and things like that. But it kind of led me right back down to me. It led me back to me and discovering more about myself and the way my brain works, and how many other people in a society that technically isn't built for us. And so it's all very well to be like, you can manifest this and you can dream big and you can do that. But I know that a key component of that is your belief system, what you actually believe. And having ADHD and going through the world, going through, school and friends and relationships and jobs, and, feeling that kind of having that kind of reminder in the background of like, will I be able to do it? Will I be consistent? Can I do this? I've had a good day and everyone's praising me, but tomorrow I could crash out and I could feel completely different, and it could be like getting a different person. Just me not getting enough sleep alone. I'm like, I can perform very well at times, when I'm feeling regulated and good and I've had enough sleep. But then you could get a whole different side to me where it's like I can't even take in what you're saying half the time. So if I feel like that, I know there's a lot of other people that feel like that. And I think that right now what's important is to kind of go on that journey, and that's what we will be doing. I had this like nice aesthetic idea of how things were going to look on camera and the videos I can do, but actually it's just forced me to be more vulnerable and turn the camera back round to me and what is really happening in my life, our lives, because myself and my sister. And ever since creating the Mindset Magic brand and channel, we have been we've gotten a lot closer. We've been able to bond, and we've been able to find out what's really going on in each other's lives. You could speak to people every now and again, but this forces us to speak to each other every day, to be more vulnerable with each other, and to work on a lifestyle and routine that really works for us as neurodivergent people. But yeah, anyway, I'm talking a lot. Um, I just had to be honest and share that, and hopefully, um, a lot of people will be able to learn from the things that we are planning on doing, and you can follow our story and follow our journey and get involved, because it's like I said, it's all about community, not just about people finding a place where they belong, but other people like us holding you accountable, which is helpful. Everybody needs that little nudge or boost of motivation. But if we do it together, you'll almost always find it harder to let other people down. You're quicker to let yourself down to let others down. For most people. So if you've got a bunch of people like, come on, you can do it, you're more likely to do it, as opposed to like, I should be doing this, but I'm not, I'm doing this instead. So I think a huge part of what I learn is have someone to hold you accountable, someone close to you or someone you trust, to be honest and vulnerable with yourself. And once you start doing that, things will come through that will remind you, like, for example, what came through for me was just like, oh yeah, this is why you don't feel confident that you can be a good friend, a good partner, a good employee, a good whatever, because half the time you feel like you can't even control your mood. Sometimes your moods are low or your anxiety is high and things like that. So anyway, I will leave the video here, and hopefully you can join the journey and watch what's going to happen next. But we will have something coming out soon. I'm just letting you know, it seems like we're going to be focused on neurodivergent, ADHD, the journey, and the things that you can do to improve. We're going to be testing and trying a lot of things ourselves. So you'll just kind of be along for the ride, and then we get to be the guinea pigs. You get to know that, okay, this is what worked for us. And I'm talking physical activity, I'm talking mental activity, and I'm talking food. There's a loud motorbike outside, I'm so sorry. And I'm talking food and nutrition. So we are working on a more consistent and regulated nervous system, boosting our serotonin and dopamine so we no longer need to have those days where we crash out. That is our goal, that is our mission for right now. So I'll see you soon, and take care of yourselves. Goodbye.